Good afternoon here in Washington. Good late evening in Kyiv and elsewhere in Europe. My name is John Herbst. I run the Eurasia Center at the Atlantic Council. I have the honor today of speaking with President Petro Poroshenko, who, of course, was president in Ukraine shortly after Moscow began its war on Ukraine in 2014. And whom I've had the honor of knowing, my goodness, for 21 years. When he began, well, not when he began, but when he was in the midst of his career, which led to the presidency, a career we had virtually every senior position in the Ukrainian government. So I will leave it as that as an introduction. Well, actually, I should say that when he became president in late May of 2014, he immediately successfully rallied his people in response to Moscow's aggression. This was, of course, 3+ months after the Russians seized Crimea, and maybe 6 or 7 weeks after they began their war in Donbass. And literally, within 2.5 months of his taking the presidency, Ukrainian forces had almost kicked Russia completely out of Donbass, at which point they sent in the regular army to prevent that from happening. So with that, I'll begin our conversation. And again, it's a great pleasure to welcome you here in Washington. So first, how would you describe the state of the war right now?
First of all, I'm very happy to see all of you here. I'm missing you because I was not in Washington for quite a long period of the time because I don't have a permission to leave Ukraine as a leader of the opposition. And I want to thank John, Ambassador, and Atlantic Council for this unique opportunity. This is extremely important for me. Why it's vital to be now in Washington? Because this is not simply a busy day, this is a decisive day for the future of Ukraine. And this situation, we have an extremely difficult situation on the front line, and at the same time, very new opportunities. What is the three phases of the war, of wild-scale war? Not 11 years war, but war with 1,000 days. First, it was stage of the demolition war. When Putin sent the troops, it was around 200,000 troops. And when we stopped them, and when we find out what they are delivering to Ukraine, it was the parade uniform with all the records, motivation flag, and they go to celebrate the victory. What at that time stopped Russian troops? Just 4 kilometers from Kyiv. First is the bravery of Ukrainian soldiers and unity of Ukrainian people. Second, Javelin from US. And third, Enlav, Stinger, and Bayraktar. I know what I'm talking about because I am keeping both Javelin and Enlav and know how effective it was. Russia simply was not prepared for that. Russia do not attack hospital, object of the critical energy infrastructure, because they want to keep it for themselves. They think that Ukraine will welcome that. And we call this period demolition. Then it was the phase of the counteroffensive. It started in April 2022, when we threw Russia away from Kyiv. What was the factor for the effective counteroffensive? Two things: bravery of Ukrainian soldiers and unity of Ukrainian people, and HIMARS. With the HIMARS, we destroy the storage of the ammunition, we destroy the center for making decision, and we threw Russian away from Kherson and Kharkiv region. Great success. And then it starts third phase at the beginning of year 2023, which is lasting until now. This is attrition, where the military factor is not so important. And Putin wants to destroy the nation. Think that we cannot win the battle of time. The situation at the front line is not having any significant changes. Putin and we pay a very high price. We cannot outman Putin. Why? Because he has a significantly bigger mobilization and manpower resource. We have less than 1 million. Putin has 25 million. Putin has more money. Do you know how much money Putin planned for the state budget as a military budget for the year 2025? $143 billion. And this is 33% bigger than in the year 2024. And this is almost 10% of the GDP. Compared with the European expenditure for the military, or even American. Ukraine received for the military budget less than 50 billion. Putin almost 150. How we can fight? This is not from our taxpayers. This is all together with the partners. We cannot outman, but we should outsmart, out-technology, and out-motivation. And no one single moment in this war I was not an optimist. So I was an optimist, because it's impossible to be the president or the leader of the country in a state of war and not to believe in the victory. What is the other factor which is important? Do you know how much Shahid attack drones Ukraine were attacked in October? 1,740. And I assure you, no country in the world can have an effective air defense against such a big number of attacking drones which have a range more than 2,000 kilometers. War is changed. Tank or armed personal carrier or even air carrier is not so important. Long-range missile, radio electronic warfare system, unmanned drones, these type of things. When I can destroy a Russian tank which costs $3 million, with a drone costs $300. And 70% from these attack drones was Iranian. That means Iran is full participant of the war. Significant part of the aggressor. Do you know how many missiles we were attacked in October and November? 217 ballistic missile. 45% of them was North Korean production. That was, without North Korea, Russia definitely would exhaust. And could you imagine that the North Korea and Iran supplied to Russia 30% more artillery shells than all the NATO supplied to Ukraine? Unbelievable. Do you know how much cost the artillery shell produced in Pennsylvania? more than $5,000. Do you know what price North Korea supplied to Russia? Artillery shell, $400. Compare and think how we fight. That's why we should make a significant changes. And these changes should be done with a new opportunity with the president-elect. I know what I'm talking about. I worked with Trump for more than 3 years. I want to remind you that we received the first lethal weapons, Javelin, which I mentioned from the very beginning, from Trump during my first visit to the Oval Cabinet. I want to tell you that I was immediately received the special presidential envoy, Ambassador Kurt Volker, as a presidential representative for implementation Minsk agreement. And by the way, do you know the 5 preconditions for Minsk agreement we agreed together with Kurt, Chancellor Merkel, and President Hollande? It was 5 non-compromise, which is fully included in the Minsk agreement. First, non-compromise on the sovereignty and national identity of Ukraine. We never would be Russian colony again. Second, non-compromise on the territorial integrity of Ukraine. We never give up and never accept any tiny piece of Ukrainian territory beyond the Russian sovereignty. Point number 3, non-compromise on the armed forces of Ukraine. We never accept decrease of the ability of Ukrainian armed forces, which was created by my team, to protect Ukraine. Fourth, non-compromise on sanction. It should be sanction from the hell. The KPI of sanction should be to cut volume of Russian export and to cut Putin's ability to finance the war. And fifth, I do not accept that it would be any limitation for Euro-Atlantic integration of Ukraine. Future, our NATO membership. I want to remind you that Putin attacked Ukraine in the year 2014, when Ukraine was officially, under the constitution and the legislation, was a neutral state. That's why all this explanation of Putin is just you understand me. And I'm proud that I put Euro-Atlantic integration, European integration as a future membership of NATO is obligatory for any government, any president of Ukraine as a part of Ukrainian constitution. And with all this situation, I really think that this 5 non-compromise is a very important part for any future point of compromise to stop the war. We should make peace through strength. And that's why I'm here, to make Ukraine stronger with the Democratic administration and with the Republican administration. Because now bipartisan support is so important as never before. And Ambassador put me on the leg that said I should finish. We should make a little bit more time for the Q&A session.
No, we do, but we actually have at least 1 or 2 more questions for you. We have time for plenty of time for Q&A. That tells you when this part of the conversation ends. Okay. Your answer was so comprehensive, you answered several of the questions I was going to ask. So I'll jump to this. Now, you just mentioned these 5 compromises, which should be part, or these 5 positions, which should be part of any...
5 non-compromise.
Not compromise, right, should be part of any durable peace agreement. Some of them are not fully consistent with what we understand about the Trump peace initiative. If you were meeting with President-elect Trump tomorrow, what advice would you have for him regarding the war in Ukraine? But before you answer, for the audience, we're taking questions both for those in-house with us. We have a microphone. For those not in-house, you can send a question in at askac.org. So, Mr. President, over to you.
First of all, I really hope that I meet with President Trump in the near future. And second, what would be my piece of advice? Point number one, based on my 5 years experience to communicate with Putin. First, obligatory and very strong message. Please, don't trust Putin. Putin, as a KGB officer, was specially trained for one important thing: how to lie. Please, do not trust Putin. This is important. Not only for the Trump, but for the whole team. Because Putin has a certain charisma, and the person who met him not very often the first time, it seems to me, okay, I reached the agreement. No. No chance. Why? Because Putin don't need Crimea. Putin absolutely don't need Donbass or Zaporizhia or Kherson. Putin need the whole Ukraine. Even no. Putin want that Ukraine stop exist. And it would be a province of Russia. And that's why not any preliminary agreement can be reached will not satisfy Putin. And there is no any instrument for the guarantee of all the agreements which can be reached with Putin except of the NATO. So please, do not trust Putin. Point number two. I think that maybe President Trump don't really need it, but just in case. Please don't be afraid of Putin. Because Putin understands only one language. I speak with him. And this is not an English language. Or even not the German language, despite of the fact that he lives in Dresden and think that Dresden is also part of the natural Russian interest. I tried to speak with Putin in the Russian language. Bad news, he is also not understand it. And the only language Putin understands is a language of strength. If you have a strong position, you will reach the results. If you fear Putin feeding with your fear, and you lost the battle. That would be my words to the president-elect. Point number three. Please don't be afraid of Russian defeat. Don't listen this blackmail that, okay, it would be house, it would be bear with the nuclear. No, don't be afraid of Russian defeat. And last, don't be afraid of Ukrainian victory. Because that would be very great things. I think for the first meeting, that's enough.
I'm afraid I'm going to give you one more question.
Please,
All right.
at your service.
The Biden administration has been famously timid in providing arms to Ukraine. This picks up upon one of your points, because they had been intimidated by Putin's nuclear bluster. Despite the West many times passing Putin's red lines, there are some loud supporters of President-elect Trump who have likewise been intimidated by Russia's nuclear threats. How do you evaluate Putin's use of the nuclear card?
Just a simple and empty attempt of blackmail. Very Putin style. But I already answered on this question, because when I said, please don't believe Putin. Same when he tried to blackmail the whole world with the nuclear weapons. Putin have a fully understand and have no illusion that immediately when he uses the nuclear weapons, he will stop exist. And we should deliver absolutely crystal clear and loud message to him. Believe me, this is the most effective thing.
Okay, thank you. So you're the president, and I'm just the former ambassador, so you win the tug of war here on the stage, and we'll turn to audience questions. So if anyone in the audience wants
You are
to...
ambassador, I'm former president. So
We have an open mic there. Just get up to the mic, and the first one there gets the first question. And please identify yourself, please.
Michael Washura, I'm with The Insider. Can you hear me?
a little bit closer to the microphone, a little bit louder. Thank
Michael Washura, I'm with The Insider. You mentioned the fact that there had been arms deliveries to Ukraine before February 24th, 2022. You mentioned the NLAWs, Stingers, Javelins. The Russians, of course, knew that these were being delivered. And one reason we know this is because on February 21st, at the infamous Security Council meeting, Sergei Shoigu talked about how the Ukrainian military was preparing for war. They also knew that we had their plans because they had been showing them on their own television, with the routes from Belarus and everything. On February 23rd, you were interviewed by Yaroslav Trofimov of the Wall Street Journal, and you warned him that the invasion was going to start sometime after 4 a.m. I have several other friends who got calls like that. Absolutely. Everyone who was reasonably well connected in Kyiv knew the invasion was starting, knew that the Ukrainian military was ready, knew that there were javelins and NLAWs and Stingers. But the Russian soldiers who were woken up in the middle of the night, stripped of their cell phones and sent into Ukraine, were not told where they were going. Did anybody think that was weird?
Excuse me, are you a journalist? Yes. You should make a special investigation of what's going on 2 weeks before 24th of February. And I would happily give you all information I have. I like your style. First time when I have a floor in the parliament was September 2021. This is easy to check. And I said immediately we should give 60 billion hryvnia to the armed forces because the Russian aggression is unavoidable. Stop spending money on the велике будівництво, крадівництво, great building program, and finance the armed forces. In the most combat brigade, you have less than 50% of the soldiers. Your soldiers receive their salary less than the security in the market. You do not have an arm jacket. You do not have a Kevlar helmet because the person who should supply was under the political pressure and arrest. At the end of the day, country is not ready for the Russian invasion. We need to deliver Stugna anti-tank directly to the possible target. Instead of that, they start to demine Chongar. Nobody can understand why it's happened. Me as a president put 3 brigades on the administrative border of the Crimea. They will withdraw. The fake story that one of the soldiers who tried to connect the mines and blast the bridges, this is not true because the mines was checked 6 times a day and have a triple system for the insurance. Okay, everything else I reserve for our future book. But the conclusion, country was not ready for the war.
Okay, we'll take a second question from the...
And now it's most important thing. Poland is not ready for the war. Romania is not ready for the war. Bulgaria is not ready for the war. Slovakia is not ready for the war. And, sorry for saying that, US is not ready for this type of the war. Same way, like I said in September year 2021, please, that would also be part of the advice to the president-elect.
Thank you. Okay. Please.
Prepare your economy for the war. You should switch it to the military rail. There does not exist any more important thing than security. Your artillery shell should cost $400, not $6,000. And that's possible with a massive production. Prepare your armed forces for the war. Because while we win the first stage of the war, because our troops has a combat experience, Russian not. And I know what does it mean for us when I was Supreme Commander-in-Chief in the year 2014. Prepare your armed forces for the war. And third, please, prepare your people. You should be more responsible, more united, because again, unity and democratic resilience in the year 2022 play a very important role.
Thank you. Okay, please, identify yourself.
Ariel Cohen, вітаю пан президент.
Мої шанування.
And I'm going to ask two difficult questions, if you allow me.
One.
They're connected.
No, one difficult and one easy. That would be a compromise.
The first one is about the counteroffensive of 23. We all hoped here that it'll be a successful counteroffensive, that the Russian troops in south of Ukraine will be dissected in two, and that will be the beginning of the turning point of the war. But the signaling, we knew where the offensive is going to be. We knew that the Russians had deep echeloned defense, and what happened. Why is that? And the second is what you mentioned before. The human resources of the Ukrainian military now are smaller than Russia's, shall we say. How do you solve this problem? But even as a business executive, you know that if you have production and machines, you need people to man these machines.
What do you think? What question is difficult? What is easy?
Your choice, sir.
Yeah. Choose the one you want.
Thank you very much, and we all very much admire Ukrainian people and Ukrainian effort. Thank you.
Thank you. This is important. For the counteroffensive operation in the year 2023, first, why the Kharkiv offensive operation was successful? Because you do not know when it happened and where it happened. And why the counteroffensive was not successful in the year 2023? Because you know when it happened and where it happened. Absolutely crystal clear answer. Do you know what does it mean, Surovikin line? At the place when everybody knows that the offensive operation would take place in Orekhovo, can you imagine that they built 25 kilometers minefield, dragon teeth, fortification, and many, many other things? The whole Russia built 80 kilometers of the fortification, and they do it in 2 weeks. Like that. And then we do not cancel the counteroffensive operation because it publicly declared. That was an element of PR. We have a 9th brigade of the offensive operation, not from the armed forces, but from the National Guard. Come on. Part of the troops was moved to Bakhmut instead of the concentrated attack on the Zaporizhia. Okay, better, my recommendation, invite the general, who then participated in the planning of this operation, and how they were with the tight hands. Not have enough artillery shells, not have enough tanks, absolutely not have drones, and many other. But this is not interesting. we need to learn how to fight with the new condition. And that was very heavy lessons for us. That's answer why the Kharkiv operation was successful and counteroffensive was, I can say, less successful. Sorry for that, I will take a plan. A second question was?
Personnel.
The Russian advantage in personnel. In other words, how does this affect what you do?
Yeah. We should stop using the people of Ukraine as an instrument for the mid-storm operation. For us, every soldier is the most valuable resources, more important than the tank, plane, rocket, and everything. I don't have any motivation that if successful Russian attack take us out from some forest, we should, because of the fact that anybody afraid to report on the top that we are losing this forest, send the soldiers without, they called it Zustrichny bій. You understand what I mean? And what necessary to be done now? Do same that Russia do in the spring year 2023. First, build the effective fortification where soldiers would be directly there. Stop giving the order for the offensive operation now. The price for that, we can do that, but the price for that is enormous and have a negative results in future. Receive from the United States landmine and do the same 15 kilometers landmine who do not allow Russia to penetrate on the position. Look, I'm a politician, I'm a president, but I feel myself as a general. This is not making very much happy, but I'm absolutely confident the Ukraine ability to protect and to stop Putin is guaranteed. Okay. We should simply stop to work for TV and start to work for saving the soldiers. What does it mean, save the soldiers? This is a special NATO program. Every person who mobilized to the armed forces should guaranteed under the law have armed jacket, Kevlar helmet, radio, night Google, radio electronic warfare system Parasol for protecting against drone, laser weapon, bullet. Without that, you cannot send him to the position.
Thank you.
This is also the way how to do. Okay, again, when you do the second book about the ability of Ukraine to protect, that would be another topics.
Okay, before we go to this microphone, we'll take one from our virtual audience. So this is from ex-Congressman Jim Slattery. What does Ukraine need to complete production of long-range missiles, and how long will this take?
I have maybe not so popular idea.
Okay, please.
We should start to produce long-range. First of all, we have an ability to produce long-range missile. For this long-range missile, we need a component. We have a technology. We need a component from all over the world. I promise you, Russia received the component from China. And China do not supply this component to us.
Okay.
We need a different type. And where we should put the production of this long-range missile? Right on the border with the NATO member states, but not from Ukrainian side. Why don't we can put it on Polish side, Slovakian side, and have it secure production?
Okay.
But this is absolutely possible together. And the third position, we need to have a joint venture together with the NATO member state defense industry. No matter if it is American, German, British, or many else. Why? For saving the time. We need long-range missile now. urgently.
So would this be one more recommendation to the incoming administration?
That's my intellectual property.
Okay.
Let me keep at that.
Okay, that's enough for now. Okay, please.
My name is Jim Gilmore. I'm the immediate past Trump-appointed ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe at Vienna. I'm also the past governor of the state of Virginia. I might report to you, by the way, that the OSCE meeting this afternoon, Foreign Minister Lavrov was there to give a speech, as he always does at OSCE. And today, the Polish and Baltic ambassadors walked out on him at the OSCE meeting. Well, my question to you is about the will of the Ukrainian people. When I was in Kyiv in 2021 and met with about 12 cabinet ministers, the message was always the same, and that was that Ukraine would stand up relentlessly for its sovereignty and against the Russians. Now we're hearing some reports from the field and in some of the media that this advantage that you talk about in munitions and money and people is wearing down the Ukrainian people, and they are ready to compromise and ready to give up territory and ready to, because of exhaustion. My question to you is, what is the state of the Ukrainian people today in this conflict?
It is very difficult for people in Ukraine. People are tired. People are exhausted. People has a lack of money. And people has a big tragedy, psychological tragedy, because every single family has a friends, relatives, which was killed or wounded. But I don't see any opinion poll which demonstrated that Ukrainians are ready to give up, are ready to sell their territory for Putin type of peace. Why? Because if you sell the territory for the Putin type of peace, you would not have neither peace, no territory. And if Lavrov go to the OSCE session, I follow the recommendation of Polish representative. Lavrov, same as Putin, is a military criminal. And I hate the idea to give a platform of OSCE to the military criminal, undoubtedly. And another piece of advice in that situation I give to the president-elect. Please, stop losing people. We cannot wait months or years, because every single night I see Shahid flying near my house. I listen in the noise of missile. Every single night, dozens of Ukrainian civilians and some of Ukrainian soldiers are killed. Stop losing Ukrainian people. Stop losing Ukrainian territory. And stop losing the time. 3 factors, my advice. To Ukrainian leadership, to the NATO leadership, and how to stop it. If you ask me how can I stop, I can stop it without one single shot, without one single life of the people. It's just, you're absolutely right, one signature. And what signature we are talking about? Invitation to NATO. With the exact time when Ukraine obtained full membership to NATO. And until that time, we have a Swedish and Finnish type of the security guarantee equal to Article 5. And please, stop signing this stupid bilateral security assurance. This is nothing. Nobody needs it. And our coordinated action to say that simply there is no any alternative how to stop the war, how to build a sustainable security situation on the continent, how to make America great again, how to return the leadership of the free and democratic world. Signature, a NATO invitation. In 2018, I was the participant of the summit of NATO in Brussels. It was under the President Trump. And I asked him, Mr. President, would you be so kind to ask these 30 leaders, who is against Ukrainian membership in NATO? And first, I'm asking you, Mr. President. And Donald said, no, I'm not against. And among this big hole, nobody raised up their hands. That's why everything or significant depend on the United States. We should use these resources.
Thank you. Okay, other question over here?
Good evening, Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
My name is Katerina
Вас
Odarchenko.
неймовірно прошу.
Дуже
Дуже
дякую.
пасує.
Дуже дякую. I represent SAC Group and Institute for Democracy and Development. We do a lot of research on Russian disinformation campaigns, especially on elections in Europe. And unfortunately, their tools pretty straightforward, but they're effective. For example, in Slovakia, they was pretty effective in Czech Republic, in Germany. And we all explore here narratives of Russian disinformation, and all think tanks have some good work on that. But really, we haven't some practical tools to stop financing of disinformation. So generally to stop the supply chain of money, resources, contractors to, create this disinformation in Eastern Europe and in Western Europe. And generally with these tools, Putin can move more people to European Parliament, and it will be crucial also for stability in the region. So what tools do you see maybe as coalition of pro-European political forces to stop these disinformation campaigns in Ukraine, in potential peace agreements after these agreements, and in Europe on their elections? Because on my point of view, it's crucial. Thank you so much.
First of all, it's not exist the simple decision. Don't believe. Russia provides a sophisticated technology, and we should be creative enough. I start our meeting with the message, what is the Putin purpose of the war? And I was not exactly accurate. I said that the main purpose of the war is destroy Ukraine. This is just half of the purpose. And second half of the purpose is to swift Western world, to destroy unity of freedom and unity of democracy. And he is ready to spend not less money than on Ukrainian war to split and to finance. How we can stop it? Only one way: to win the war. And you at the same time solve many questions. Election in Romania, election in Moldova, election in Austria, election in Hungary. Stop allow Putin to use the democratic instrument to destroy democracy. We should be brave and decisive enough. Second position, stop using the Telegram. Please, this is not a messenger. This is FSB or KGB media platform. My proposal only...
Some people may not know what Telegram is. It's Russian social media channels.
Can you imagine that 80% of Ukrainians receive all the information from the Russian social media platform? How can it be? And I put forward in the Parliament initiative, at least regulate this Telegram with the legislative of normal media. Stop using anonymous site of Telegram. And because of the fact that somebody from the government, from presidential office, has a multi-million Telegram channel, they said, no, no, we don't need it. This is irresponsible behavior for the future. And another things. All these things need money. Now it's extremely popular to speak how much it costs for US, for EU, for Great Britain, for Germany. Absolutely wrong question. Because they consider it as assistance or even more as a charity. Very kind Western partner give the charity money to Ukraine for spending. Completely wrong. This is investment in the global and European security. And the Western democracy and the Western world cannot survive without this investment. And those who said that also some popular as a part of the Russian narrative, as you absolutely rightly said. About Ukrainian fatigue. My message, if you're tired from Ukraine, means you're tired from freedom and you're tired from democracy. Go to the North Korea. It would be much more interesting.
President Poroshenko, you have been eloquent as always. We thank you very much for your time. I think the audience appreciated the conversation. We had a standing room only crowd here in the studio and many thousands more watching virtually. So we look forward to seeing you again in Washington and perhaps repeating this. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
And let's welcome Ambassador. He do absolutely great job. We know each other since Orange Revolution.
Before the Orange Revolution.
Sorry?
Before.
Okay, he participated in the Orange
No,
Revolution.
no.
That's a joke. That's a joke, please. No, but that was...
Okay.
Once again,